Yeah. All right. Morning, everybody. Today is Daf Kuf Yud. So, first word, top line.
Oh, sorry.
What the goodness is.
Somebody has a shtarchov al chavero. Yay. I go ahead and Kuf Yud Amar Aleph, first word, top line. So please, shkoch, 8 ounces. So let's say I go ahead and present. I borrowed money from Alan Gershman. Alan takes out a shtar. But then I go ahead, Kuf Yud. I go ahead and I actually show that I sold Alan a field. So he paid me money for it, right? He paid money for the field, and he had a shtar that said I borrowed money before that from him. So I owe him money, and then he paid me for my field. So if I really owed you money, Alan, so why did you pay me for my field? You should have deducted that amount from the field, right? If I really owe you, otherwise, it's a forged star. It's not a. Right. We'll get to that a little later. He says, no, he's smart. Alan was smart. Why Shemach was a karka? In other words, he went ahead and he got the field. He basically sold me the field, right? So therefore, in that case, he'd be able to go ahead and collect the field from me, right? So therefore, he basically uses as collateral, right? So since he would use the field as collateral, in other words, somewhere to go ahead and collect the field. So to him, right now he has a field. So let's see this case. So the Gemara wants to know what's going on here. So my time of the Rabban. What's the reason according to Rabban? Right? Kuf Yud Aleph. So Shabri Kamar Admon. Admon has a good claim. If Alan went ahead and bought, right? In this case, that Alan sold me a field, right? Alan sold me a field, right? And that at that point. Right, I said the opposite before, I think. Right? Did I say the opposite? So if Alan sold me a field, right, and then so therefore I was paying him. So therefore, in that part of that transaction should have accounted for the money. So my time they're abundant. So if we're talking about a case where they give the money at the time of the sale, so it says. You should have got your money back when you did the transaction, right? When we did the transaction, you shouldn't have done more business with me if I still owed you money. So keep pligi, but now we're talking about a place of where basically they wrote the shtar and afterwards they gave the money. So Abba held that what really that in this case, if indeed I owed him money, basically he should have told others. Should have told Randy, hey, basically, I'm going to go ahead and, sell him the field in order that, when he doesn't pay me the loan, I'll be able to go ahead and collect it. But he owes me money. And therefore, that's the reason why I'm selling to him. Otherwise, he would not do further business with me without me going ahead and collecting for the money that I owed in the first place. And I was, why am I paying $100 for a field? If I borrowed $50 from him, let me go ahead and give me my money first, and then we'll talk about a transaction, right? And however, but Rabban and Sabri, no, if you go ahead and tell Randy, in this case, what's going to happen? You're going to tell Randy, and the Randy is going to tell Mayor, and Mayor's going to eventually come back to me that the reason why you're selling me the field is in order to go ahead and collect the field back from me, because now you have collateral, and therefore you're going to let the cat out of the bag. So therefore, can't even tell one person, right? You can't even tell the person because you don't want to get out the reason why you're selling. So that's why you didn't tell anybody. So according to Rabbanan, that's the reason why you didn't tell anybody, and therefore it's still a valid loan. And according to Admon, it's no, because you shouldn't have done further business with me if I already owed you money. Zok the Mishnah. Mishnah says, two people had a loan. So Alan says, hey, Yoel, you Hey, you owe me money. Here's it shows you about $100. And then all of a sudden I say, oh yeah, that's pretty funny because I also have a share that you owe me money. So according to Adbot, if it's true, Alan, that I indeed owed you money, so then why did you borrow money from me? You should have just taken your money back, right? You borrow from me. I have a loan document. No. So as though they each go ahead, in other words, everything is done by according to Chamim, they each go ahead and they collect from one another. So Itamar. So let's see. What's the so Shneim? So this is the case. Shneim should see Rav Nachman Amar Zeg Goive. Each one goes and collects. I collect 100 from Alan. He collects say 100 from me. Rav Sheshes Amar. Why are we just switching backs, right? Okay, whatever. You keep yours and I keep mine. Ella, each one remains on his own. Nothing goes transferred. There's no transfer back and forth because it's the same amount, the same value, assuming the same value.
It's a star. You have to owe them money.
I know, but I have a star and he has a star. So says Rav Sheshes? What's the point of trading the bags?
The whole point of the.
So let's see. The Kuli Alma Edis Beinonis Bevenas is if now once again, if you don't have the cash to go ahead and you pay a loan and therefore you can go ahead and seize his land. Now, if we have the same types of lands, so that it makes sense. It's just changing bags. There's no difference, right? Everything is the same, right? You give me a book, I give you the same book, but it doesn't do anything. So keep pligi, these are the Chad Beinonis, the Chad Zibaris. One of them had Beinus land, and the other one had Zibaris land. Now, normally a Balchov collects from the middle, Beinus, right? Zibaris is the lowest level of land, right? No one wants that. Edis is the highest level. So normally a debt, right, is collected through Beinus. Now, Rav Nachman Rav Nachman holds that they do go ahead and start the collection. What happens here in this case? And when we evaluate a land, we don't look at all the lands of the world. This is an Edis land. This is a Beinus land. This is a Zibaris land. No, we don't do that. My lands, what is this one? Right? We look at the individual, right? It could be a Beinus to the world, but to me, it's an Edis. Right? Now, in this case here.
But who cares if it's Edis to you? It's psychological.
That's how we do it. Notice when I have to pay you back a land, I don't have to give you my best land, even though my best land is only a mediocre land. I don't have to give you my best land. I can give you the less than that. I can give you a lower land, right, which is a worse land than right. Now, so what happens in this case? Asi Baal Zibaris. So in this case, let's say I'm the Baal Zibaris. I have the worst lands. So then I go ahead and I collect your land, and Alan, you have nicer lands than me. I take your Beinus land, right? The Havi Gabe Edis, right? And now this is now my new best land, the Beinus. The Asahu V'Shagol Zibaris. And now when you collect the land back from me, you basically took my Zibaris and I took your Beinus. So therefore there's a reason why we go ahead and collect from one another, because you end up not trading a bag for a bag. It's a better bag for a worse bag. So he says no. You're just spinning lamali, right? So he says no. The reason is that in this case, you're just splitting bags lamali. He holds that when you evaluate lands, you evaluate it according to the world, and therefore Beinus is Beinus. Therefore, even if I take Alan's Beinus land, you can take it right back from me because that's Beinus the Gabi the world, according to Rav Sheshes. Why am I the one who collects first? Let's say Alan would have collected first. So, okay, let me see your lands. All I have is Zibaris. So you take my worst land, right? And believe me, Zibaris, and then you take it. And then I will go back and take it from you, and I'll take the Zibaris right back because I can't take your best land, which are Beinus, right? Because those are the best to you. So therefore, I take the Zibaris right back. So according to this, it would just be switching backs. So if you switch around the order of who collects first, there's a difference. So let's see the kaddim tava. No, we're talking about a case of where the guy with the Zibaris lands, he went ahead and collected first. So in the end, the Lamaisa, they're coming at the same time, so they just they would just switch. So the Islay Lachad, one of them has Idis and Beinus. Al in this case has the top lands. And he has Beinus. The Isle the Chad, the Ziboris, and the other guy, I in this case only have Ziboris. And so Mar Savar. So in this case, now when Mar Savar Shalai and Shemin. Now in this case, it really doesn't make a difference to the order, because if I would go ahead and collect from his lands, he has Edis and Baininus, I would take the Baininus, right? And then when he comes back to me to collect the land, right? So now it depends what you hold. So Marsa B'Shal Kol Adam. If it's B'Shal Kol Adam, so therefore I take a Baininus and you take a Baininus, and therefore it's the same thing, right? So Marsa B'Shal Kol Adam Hein Shemin. So excuse me. So one held, Rav Nachman held Hein B'Shalo, right? You know, it's depending on him. So therefore, if I go ahead, you can never go ahead and take the person's best land. So if I go ahead and take your Baininus, and then he comes back and he would take the Ziboris from me. And if he collects first, he would take the Ziboris from me, and then I would go ahead and collect the Baininus. So either way, according to Rav Nachman, it doesn't matter who goes first. There is a difference. One guy is collecting the Ziboris land, the other guy is collecting the Baininus land. But according to Rav Sheshes, since we judge land shel kol adam, therefore it is all these same. So tonight, let's look at the Mishnah. Chachamim say no, each one goes in and collects it. So it's a proof for Rav Nachman. It's really Kash and Rav Sheshes. So taking Rav Nachman, I'll leave it to Rav Sheshes. So Rav Nachman will say for Rav Sheshes, Kegoyin shaloi bezeh le'eser u'lezeh chamesh. No, we're talking about a different case. We're talking about a case of where there's different times for the loans. Hey chidami. So what's the case? Ilema rishon le'eser. So now I borrow money from Alan, $100 for 10 years. All right. Now, the Sheni the Chamesh, then 5 years later, Alan needs money, but I don't have to pay him back yet. I have the cash, but I don't have to pay him back yet. So I said, okay, you want to borrow $100? Here's $100. You can borrow from me for 5 years, right? Now, right? So would Admon say in this case, right? Hey, if I owed you money, if you owed me money, why would I borrow from you? In this case, I don't owe Alan any money because my loan is not due yet. So therefore, he's going to take out a loan from me. Ella, so that can't be the case in Mishnah. Ella rishon chamesh. Let's say it's like this: I go ahead and I borrow $100 for 5 years. The sheni, and then all of a sudden later on, Alan borrows money for 10 years. Say chidami. Zmani is my time to rabbanan. I said the time already was before Alan was taking a loan, and I owed him the money. So then why would Alan take a loan from me for the same amount? If I owed him that exact amount, he wouldn't borrow new money. He would just go ahead and collect it. And if the time didn't arrive to collect the loan, it didn't arrive. My time to Admon, if that's the case, if I don't owe you the money, then it makes sense why you take a loan because I don't owe it to you yet. So like tzrika, rather what's the case? Make a shackle. So Ella, tzrika, the osba yema. The mashlim chamesh. Now, we're talking about a case. I borrowed money from Alan for 5 years. Alan needs money, so I get it for 5 full years. That means a day after 5 years, I have to go ahead and pay him back. So he comes to me in the last day. I don't owe you yet. I owe you tomorrow. You need $100. I'll lend you $100. Now, mar saver of it initially one knows that a person would take out a loan for even 1 day. So therefore, it makes sense why we each have a shtar.
Why would someone do that?
Because he needs the money. He is he likes the Bears money line tonight. Right? So another one holds that no, a person wouldn't borrow the money. If you're going to pay me back tomorrow, Alan will somehow figure it out and then collect his money tomorrow. And therefore, if we each have a shtar on one another, therefore that we just exchange or we don't exchange bags and we're good. And Rabbi Hacha, he says no, different case. Hacha b'yasme, we're talking about Yisayim. Yasme when it comes to Yisayim, so if one of the guys dies, so then you can collect from one of the lenders, but the other lender, if their father died and they're the children of the other lender, then you can't go ahead and take the land from them because you can't take land from the Yisayim. The guy says, but what do I mean? Our Mishnah says each one collects. How can you talk about his Yisayim? Tani. So no, this one collects and this one really is fit to collect, but however you don't because they're Yisayim. So Marava says no, still not good. State shuvas b'davar. 2 things. The first of all, it says this one collects and this one collects. And furthermore, the gavino are the asmei. The other gavino minayu. you can actually, if the assignment go ahead and collect land from a lender, then that land, since that land they didn't inherit it, in other words, when their father died, rather that land was collected from a creditor, so therefore that land can be seized in the Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman, Yisayim Shagavu Karka. If the assignment collected land on behalf of on behalf of their father's loans that were due to him, if the father also owed money to somebody else, then that Baal Chov can go ahead and seize that land. Man. So Kasha, indeed, it's a Kasha, because according to that, then you should be able to collect the assignment because they're taking land, the land should be able to be taken back. Right? Edis with Benis. So maybe we're talking about a case where the assignment only has Zibaris, and he has Edis and Benis. He has the Yasmin Gavlo Benis, right? That the assignment will go ahead and they'll collect the Benis as creditors. Zibaris. And they and they go ahead and then collect the zibaris, so it'll be different. Dinami, Bishel Kol Adam ain't Shami, right? Or in the case you'd say that is Bishel Kol Adam, and therefore one is they would be basically taking different lands, and they'll be able to go ahead and take the better land, and from them you only take the betas. However, no. So we say any from zibaris, right? You can only go ahead and take the zibaris. So Hani Mili. So yeah, Hani Mili. So they would be able to take the worst land for the assignment. Therefore, it'd be different. So he said, no, it's not different because if they go ahead, normally you take from Bainans, right? But by assignment, we tell you have to go ahead and take Zibaris. But if it's land that they seized from others, then that Bainanist land can be taken. You don't have to go ahead and take Zibaris. Therefore, it'll be right. But therefore, in this case, it will be a case of, since they seized the land, it will be a case of basically trading bags. And therefore, according to Asmo, there is no point in trading bags because you'll be taking the same land back and forth.
Zibaris actually have value.
Huh? It's the same value. It's just if I give you $1 million of land in the south side of Chicago, in Rogers Park, or in Lincoln Park, or Gold Coast, right? So each one is the same value. Just one is that much harder to go to see, to overlook, and all that. Especially within farmland, right? You can have vast acres worth the same amount that produce the same amount.
Isn't value based on location also, or not?
It is, but what is easier to maintain? Right, you have more land, but it's right. But the value, right? All right, Mishnah at the bottom. Shloish Art says the Nesuim. Nine Mishnah. There are 3 lands when it comes to marriage. Yehuda, Ve'er Hayarden, V'Hagala. So Yehuda, I guess the central region. Ve'er Hayarden on the other side of the Jordan, and the Galilee, the Galilee. Ein Maitzin Me'ir Le'ir. You cannot go ahead. Hey, you like the city life. You cannot take it from one province to another, from the Yehuda to Ve'er Hayarden, or Galilee from one city to another. Actually, Ir in this situation is actually, even though we describe it as a city, it's actually smaller than a Mikrach L'Krach, from a metropolis, or whatever you want to call it, right? So Krach is bigger than an Ir, right? Krach is the biggest, like we find by Megillah, right? So say, Me'ir Le'ir, Mikrach L'Krach. You can't force her, even though she's used to Ir living, right? The town or whatever, smaller city, then you cannot force her to move from one region. This is the region she is. She's East Coast, she's Midwest. You can't force one to the other.
You do opposite, you go from bigger to smaller.
But within the same land, if it's the same region, it's in Yehuda, right? You can go from one, you can force your wife to go ahead and move from one town to another town, or or from a city to a city in the same region. There's 3 regions.
In the same region.
In the same region. Now, well, let's see. Aval, even in the same one, you can't do it. We'll see why. Because, all right, so the Goan will explain. And Maitzin Minava Harol Minava Hayafa, you can force her to go out from a smaller house to a bigger house, a nicer estate. You can force that. About Loi Minava Hayafa, but you can't force her from a nicer place to a worse place. You can't even take it from a smaller place, a bad place, to a good place. Because a nice place can go ahead and basically, check someone's check his kishkis. We'll soon see literally. Fine. Zok the Gemara. So let's see. I understand why you can't go ahead and force a woman to go ahead from a large city to a smaller town, right? Because everything has it, right? There's pizza shops open, there's a Starbucks, and all these things. The small towns are not there. However, Beer, Bishop Mekach, the Krach Sheikh Kamili, Beer Lashik Kamili. But in a small town, everything is found. Elami, Ir the Krach. But from a smaller town to a bigger city, my time. Oh, what's the reason why you can't do it?
You're dropping the car.
No, you're going.
You're
moving to a bigger city.
You're dropping the no. The ear, the car. You drop the car, the car, but the car to ear, you elevating the ear.
No, it's the same value. Same value.
No,
Just
but-
one is in a big city and one is in a small town. So we understand why you can't move from the big city, from Chicago to Aurora, both $1 million houses, right? Because in Aurora, you can't find what you want. In Chicago, you can. So it's much harder for the wife. So therefore, she can protest and not be forced to move. But why can't you force her to move from Aurora to Chicago? What do you want? You need a restaurant? We have restaurants. You need this, we have everything. So Masai, so too many people, crime. So Masai, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, Menayin she was krachin kasha. Where do we know that living in cities is difficult? Shana, the Pasuk says, "Vaybicholam l'chol ha'anashim is not in the Yerushalayim." They blessed all those that went to Yerushalayim to move to the city. So you see, living in cities is not so easy. It's stressful. It's not this, there's parts of the town that life are good. There are parts of cities that are good, but it's not all so good. So Rishon says you can't force her to a smaller town or to a smaller house. So my baydek, he says, because it checks her. My baydek. The Shmuel, Shinoi Veses, he changed the schedule. All of a sudden, physically, you start to have, stomach pains, and it's not so good. And Kosovo is safer than Sira. It's really Ben Sira. So Kosovo is safer than Sira. Kol Yemei Ani Raim. So it says in Ben Sira, all the days of Ani Raim, all the days of poverty are bad. What do you mean all the days of poverty? But you're supposed to be in Tavim. What about Shabbos and Yantiv? So Shmuel, because Shmuel says no. Even if you change your schedule, all of a sudden you're used to a regular work week, and also Shabbos and Yantiv, all that. So that can also cause pain and suffering to a person who's not used to having so many meals and all that food. And Ben Sira he says even nights. Right, the Shvel Gagim, even nights are bad for if you move to a nicer town. Why is that? Shvel Gagim, even if you live in a city, because Shvel Gagim, Gago, because under the other roofs are his roof, and Maram Harim, Karmo, and the under the mountains are his vineyards. And others, Matar Gagim, the Gago. The rain falls from their roof onto your roof. It destroys your roof. We offer the Carmel, the crime, and also the dirt down the mountain. All of a sudden, his vineyard also gets ruined. So you see that even living amongst others, right? The rain pours down, and it can destroy or ruin your roof, and it can also destroy and ruin your vineyard. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, "Hakol malin Eretz Yisrael, vein hakol maitzin." All can person go ahead and force his family to move Eretz Yisrael. However, they cannot be forced to leave Eretz Yisrael. Hakol malin Yerushalayim also, one can be forced to move to Jerusalem. Vein hakol maitzin, ein hakol maitzin. However, you can't force others to go ahead and leave. So echad hanashim, v'echad hanashim, whether it's men or women. Nasa isha Eretz Yisrael, person marries a woman in Eretz Yisrael, a gersha Eretz Yisrael, and he divorces her in Eretz Yisrael. So nice little Moses Eretz Yisrael, that's a simple case. He gives her the money in Eretz Yisrael. Nasa isha Eretz Yisrael, he married her in Eretz Yisrael, gersha bekaput kai, and he divorced her in Kaput Kai, which is somewhere perhaps modern day Turkey, right? So he divorces her there. He still gives her the money from Eretz Yisrael, even though it's not as good money. Was the currency, right? The smaller amount, it's much harder, right, to go ahead and carry around and exchange. And thus, if he marries a woman the Gersh of Eretz Yisrael, and divorces in Eretz Yisrael, you still go ahead and give her the money in Eretz Yisrael, even though the ksuba was written in Kaput Kaya. However, because since that's where the ksuba was written, therefore that's the money you pay. And if he married a woman in Kaput Kaya, then he went and divorced her there, then he goes ahead and gives her that money. Now, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if there's a mission. Yeah. There were seven.
Discussed it already. Is this inferior versus better, or is this?
What, the money?
Or is this Eretz Yisrael rules versus the?
No. Money rules and where the ksubas
America versus Canada?
same storyline. Nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael. Let's see. Zok the Gemara. Hakol malin l'suyi mai. All can be forced in kudus. L'suyi avodim to slaves. The Tani avad. The one that says behedya. The one that says the favor should be written not only anashim and nashim also avodim behedya l'suyi mai. So what does that come to include? Hakol l'suyi minava yafel l'nava ro. Right, you can go ahead and force somebody even from a nice house in Chutz La'aretz to another road to a worse house in Eretz Yisrael, or from somewhere in Eretz Yisrael to Yerushalayim. And you can't go ahead and remove them. A slave that ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, Damrin Alei. So we tell the owner, Zavne, Hacha Vizil, go ahead and sell him, get your money, in Mishum Yeshivas Eretz Yisrael, in order for the guy who wants to go ahead and live in Eretz Yisrael. And Hakomal in the Yerushalayim, and everyone can be force others to go in the Yerushalayim. Even from a nice place to a bad place to Yerushalayim, but you can't go ahead and remove them. Even include even from a bad place to a better place outside Yerushalayim, you can't go ahead and force it. And why did you need to teach that case? Nami Ein Maitzin. Just like by Eretz Yisrael, we wrote Ein Maitzin. So do we wrote Yerushalayim, but really there was no big chiddush there. Tana Rabban in second wide line. Hu Omer LaAlois. He says, let's go ahead and make Aliyah, right? Aliyah. Via Emeris, so LaAlois says, no, I'm not moving to Eretz Yisrael. Kaifin Asa, LaAlois, he can force her to go ahead and move. He's lav, and if not, Taisa L'Ksuba. He can go ahead and he can divorce her without giving her Ksuba. He Emeris LaAlois. She says, I want to move to Eretz Yisrael. Emer Shalom LaAlois. He says, no. Kaifin Isa LaAlois, we force him to go ahead and move him lav, and if not, Yaitziv saying to, or then we force him to go ahead and give her ksuba, give her get, then ksuba, and let her go on her own. He Amirs, let's say she wants to leave. Let's say he says, no, we're not leaving. Kaifin Isa Shalalatz, we force her to stay. Him lav, and if not, Taitib ksuba, then she leaves. She's divorced without a ksuba. Who Amir Lot says, he says, hey, we're leaving. The Amir is Shalom. Let's say she said, no, we're not leaving. Kaifin Isa Shalalatz, we force him to stay. Him lav. If not, if he insists on leaving, then he must divorce her and give her a ksuba. So he marries. Now we're talking about the location and what money you pay with. Is it the place where you wrote the ksuba where you got married, or is it the place where you got divorced and now you got to pay the ksuba? So which monies do you use?
You don't pay with the land.
I guess it wasn't, followed up by land, you can pay her cash. Now, Hokavakasha. If he married a woman in Eretz Yisrael and then he divorced her in Kavakaya, nice the most Eretz Yisrael, right? You gave her the money in Eretz Yisrael, Alma plus the Shibuda Azlina. We go after where the Shibud was, right? Where he obligated himself, which was when he wrote the Ksuba where they got married.
Where the Ksuba was with.
Right. Same as Seifa. Let's look at Seifa, right? All right, the Ksuba was written in Northlake, right? Same as Seifa. What are the Seifa? So Nasa Isha Bekavakaya, he marries a woman in Kapakaya, the Gerish of Eretz Yisrael. So he married her in Kapakaya, divorced her in Eretz Yisrael. So you expect the place where the Shibud was, which was Kapakaya. Nice in Eretz Yisrael. Here Eretz Yisrael. It's Alma, but you see here, Basar Guvayno is later. We go after where the money is collected. Samarabba, Mekulik Ksuba, Shanukan, Ksever Ksuba Deraban. This is one of the coolest Ksuba that he can pay whichever one he wants. He prefers the cheaper money or it's Israel money. It's not as valuable, even though it's the same, but it's just much harder to watch over. And therefore, because the Ksuba is only Deraban. Rashid Gamliel says, no, since it was written in Kapakaya, therefore, even though he's divorced in Israel, he has to pay her Mammon Kapakaya. So Ksaver, why? Ksuba Deraisa, because Ksuba is Deraisa, and therefore he's obligated. Therefore, since he was obligated himself with that money, therefore he has to pay that money. So very similar case. One who goes ahead and presents a loan document on his friend, i.e., the guy owes him money. Kosovo Bavel, if it was written in Bavel, Magvim Mos Bavel, then he collected Babylonian money. Kosovo, it was written in Eretz Yisrael, Magvim Mos Eretz Yisrael, then he collected money in Eretz Yisrael. So you see, either way, it's where it was, the document was written and where the money was lent. Kosovo Stam, right? If it was written, it doesn't say, right, because it was Stam, and it was presented in Bavel, Magvim Mos Bavel. then you have to go ahead and you pay money for the Bala. Let's see if it was
So it
presented in
depends where it
Israel.
was nachta.
Right.
Be prepared, be prepared.
Or they didn't say the
Wherever it
location.
was nachta.
They didn't say the location. All of a sudden, the guy's presenting in the court. If he presents in a Babel, he pays Babylonian money. If he presents in Israel, so he pays money for Israel. Kotzeba kesef stam. It just says kesef. It doesn't specify what type of
Right.
kesef. Whatever the borrower wants to go ahead and pay, then he can go ahead and pay. Masha'e came to ksuba, which is not like a ksuba. So Gemara says, "Yeah, which case? I'm Rav Sharsha. Areisha is going on the reisha. Because over here you can pay what he wants, which go on the reisha, which would argue the Rav Shimon Gamliel, because Rav Shimon Gamliel says ksuba is deraisa. It's where it's presented, and he doesn't have a choice. And Kazaba Kazav Stam, Mashir to live whatever he wants to pay, he can pay with. So maybe you can go ahead and pay with something like a bar of silver. So Rabbi Elazar, see, no, he can't pay with a bar, I guess, which is worse, because it says over there, matbeya kes, a coin. And a bar of silver is not a coin. Maybe it's the pruta is a small amount. People don't use prutas made of silver. That's made of, I guess, copper. The material is not silver, so therefore that's not silver. So therefore, it's a different denomination of silver. All right, we'll stop here at the Tanrabanan. Tomorrow, Mr. Shem, we will continue this voyage to the end of Ksubas. Now, I'll tell you in the car. And